Hello there, folks. Hey, this is Joe Wazoo here. Hey, today's video is going to talk about the timing for data logs. Particularly what I'm talking about here is how does this section here correspond to how often a data log is entered or established or created. So what I've done here, I got a database here that I've been running for a number of days to test this, and really what brought it to head for me was recently Crimson 3.2 allowed you to do readings every 200 milliseconds or 5 times a second. That's been a major upgrade. Honestly, 2 major upgrades. You can now do 5 readings a second, so it's 5 times faster than it used to be. And used to be you can only limit to 200 files. Now you can do up to 400 files. So in essence, Redline has increased the update log rate 5 times faster than it ever was, which was once a second. And we've doubled the capacity for the files that you can hold from 200 to 400, which is crazy, if you ask me. Just awesome. Anyway, so I've got here a number of logs in this. And as you can see here, I got this one here, log 02. This one is set for a 0.2 update. This one's every half a second. Log 1 is once a second. And log 2 is 2 seconds, every 2 seconds. I also want you to notice that all of these files have the maximum number of samples that we can hold in a file is 86,400. Now that used to be really easy to compute because there are 86,400 seconds in a day, and that was typically the max at 1 second read, so that's where that came from. But now that you can do this quicker, you can't change this number to anything bigger. But how does that affect the files? That's really what I had to pull back on this test to look at. Also, we can do a continuous sample, which is happening all the time whenever something here is true. By default down here, this is true, so it's going to continually sample. And then we also have what you can do as a triggered snapshot. Same settings on a triggered, except that down here, you need something in the log trigger to go on to trigger or take that reading. So I've done the same thing here with my log trigger, same settings, except I'm using a function called dispcount, D-I-S-P-C-O-U-N-T, .0, and that's going to focus on bit 0 of this. Dispcount is nothing more than a function that I guess counts the number of times the display page is updated. Really, it counts to 10 every second because we update the display page every 100 milliseconds. So by me putting a .0, that means I'm focused on bit 0. So that thing's going to oscillate from 0 to 1 10 times a second. So that just gives me my trigger thing here. That's all I was looking at here. So anyway, back to these files. So if you look at these, 0.2, 0.5, once a second, 2 seconds. In theory, here's where I got lost. Well, originally, the once a second reading, this would create a file every day. Every day there'd be a new file. And since I have retained at most 200, this thing would, in theory, have 200 files, 200 days on there. Each file would have today's date. Now, if I go to this one, log 2, which is every 2 seconds, because the 86,400, that's going to span 2 days. So with that one, every file would have 2 days of data with the reading every other second, every 2 seconds. So that's how that works. Where I got into the gray area is with these two guys, particularly the fact that there are, well, if I'm taking 5 times the reading, 86,400, there's going to be a lot more readings in one day than just 86,400. So my purpose of this test was to figure out what does Crimson do with that information, or how does it calculate those file sizes. So I've let this run for a number of days, and I've got a HMI that's doing the log right now, doing all this test. And in here, let me show you something. Let's go look at the first one, the log 1, which is once a second reading. So if I go into here, I want you to notice that there's a number of files, but I need you to use your keen eye and notice the file name structure. So if you look here, it's the year, the month, and the day. Every file is a new day. So today happens to be August 28th. This file's not done yet, so that's why it's not generally the same size as all the others. But each one of these files is once a day. Now, let's go back up a list, and that makes sense based on what I was saying here. This configuration would create a file once a day. Now, the log2, I said, should create a file every other day. So let's go back to the browser on this guy. Let's go to the log2 right here. Boom. Look again at these file names. This time, pay attention to the name, and you'll see this was August 22nd, August 24th, August 26th. Every other day, it's creating a file. Makes sense to me. Love it. That's how I've always known this to work. Great. Let's go back here. Now, let's look at the log 05. This guy is taking a reading every half a second. So if I said that 86,400 seconds are in a day, now I'm taking half. This time, I expect there to be maybe 2 files per day, one for the AM session and one for the PM. Last time I checked, exact same number in half the day. So if I go back to my browser here, let's go into the log 0.5 or 05 here, and I want you to look at these file names. So let's go, I'll slide down here. Look, 2600, 2612, 2700, 2612. So I'm going to eventually open these up, but if you notice, this is creating a file for the AM session and the PM. It's cutting the day perfectly in half. So that makes sense to me. Okay, that's great. Now, let's get to the meat and potatoes of the whole thing, and that is the log 0.2. The fastest we can log right here, and this number here. How does Crimson parse this into some number? And this is the part that prior to this test, I was a little gray area of how does that work? So because you can't really divide the day in some 5 increments. What does Crimson do? So if I go back here, let's go into log 02 here. That's these files. And let me slide down to the bottom here so you can see some things here. Right here. We'll just stop right here. Okay, so look here. This does a little bit different. You got 2700, 2704, 9, 14, and 19, and then it rolls over. So apparently, it takes the day, and if I counted this right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It takes the day and divides it by 5, and then these files, they're not 86,400 entries. There's some even increment of 5 for the day. And, that must be something to do with this math here. But anyway, that's what it's doing. Now, I want to show you this. I've already logged this or downloaded this here. So I'm going to do this, team. What I'm saying here is on these, when I've say logged or downloaded it, if you right-click on these, you can always use Save Link As. If you want to look at these, you can go here. And then you're going to eventually, because these are big, it'll take a little bit of time. Give it a second here. Maybe. It should pop up and ask me to save it. Let's see. Because I did right-click Save Link As. There it goes. Finally does. So when you go to save these files, you want to add a .csv here at the end. And then down here, change it to all files, and then save it. That way, it saves it as a comma-separated variable. Anyway, I've already done that here because it takes a little time. But if I go into this guy, I want you to see something. I'm going to go into this log 02. Here's those 5 files. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look at the time. This is all August 21st. Okay, so let me double click on this first one. We go here, open up in Excel. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and expand this field. There's August 21st. I'm going to expand this time now field. What I did in here, let me go back to the Crimson real quick. I have these tags over here. These just generate random numbers. But I added a tag called Time Now. And that tag, in this example, just so we can see it, is using the time function to put in the time now into a field. That's all it's doing. I wanted a way to see the time in the file. So let me go back to our here, and then I'll go back to my Excel. So if you look here, team, this is what really threw me for a loop. I'm like, wait a minute. There's the date, but see this here? Now watch this. If I click on that cell, it shows the time. If I click down here, I don't know why the cells right now don't show it. I'm not an Excel expert, but I am going to do this. I'm going to right-click on this whole column, go down here to Format Cells, and I want to show this as a time, and I'm going to pick this version here. I tried to find it here where I could do date and time, and that I'm sure there's a custom way you can do it, but this is what I'm doing here. So I'm going to pick this version right here, click OK, and now it shows me the time in seconds. So if I slide, let me make this so you guys can see this whole thing. This first row is my header, and then here's my data. Starts at this one right here, 0, 2, 5, 4, 6, 8, 10. Look, it's taking 5 readings a second. It's exactly what it's supposed to do, but the file is set up to hold 86,400. However, if I slide this all the way down to the bottom in here, I want you to notice something. It stops at 81,637. So there's some increment in Crimson that takes the day, divides it by 5, and here's what you have. Now look here. This time was 4 at 4 o'clock in the morning, 47 minutes, 59 seconds. Okay. Keep in mind that I opened up the 2100 file. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and shrink this guy down. Let's go open up the next file, which is 2104. This ought to be the very next minute. Ready? Let's double click. Let's see what happens. We'll slide all the way to the top. Go ahead and show that. Make this guy a little wider. Look, there it is, 448. Again, I'll just do it. Format Cells, time, this version right here. There you see it. It's the very next minute. So this file will go to what time? So the previous one went to 4 o'clock, 47, if you will. This one goes to about 9:35, 9:36 a.m. The next one carries on. Oh, I'm going to cancel that. Let me shrink this down. So if we look at these file names, yeah, this goes from midnight to basically 4 o'clock, 9 o'clock. This will be the 2 o'clock, and then the rest of the whatever time that is. Military, I'm not a military guy. But that breaks down. So the part that threw me for the loop, really, is that I was used to saying to people there would be 86,400 entries. But you can see here, clearly that's not the case. So when it goes to doing the data logger in this form, Crimson breaks the day up into 5 elements, if you will, and rocks. It does the same thing for the triggers as well. The one thing about the log trigger that you got to keep in mind that's kind of unique. Let me go to this one here. The log trigger is it takes the combination of these two to determine what day the files are, or a new file each time that period. So in this case, if I leave this 86,400 reading once a second, it's going to create a new file each day as long as something triggered. If nothing triggered within that period, then there'd be no data for that date or that time period. Conversely, if I went back to this version, now that we know this guy creates a new file basically every 4 hours and 47 minutes, this setting, if there was a situation within that period of time, it would create a new file within there. So this version basically takes the day and breaks it up into 5 time segments, if you will, and that's exactly what we're seeing over here. Now, let me go back to something here. I got that. Let me just want to prove my half-day thing I talked about. If I go back to here, I'm going to go up a directory, log every 2 seconds. This is my, did I not do that one? Well, I guess I didn't. But if I go here to the 2 seconds, let's go into here. This is the one that should be every 2 days. So if I open this guy, give it a second here to open, team. Go ahead and make this a little bigger. Why do you want to be all the way over there? There you go. Here we go. Once again, I'm going to go ahead and just to help us out, team, I'll make this format the time. Right here. And look, this file should have 2 days of data. Ready? So I'm going to slide on down here. Somewhere down here, we're going to hit 2400. Oh, yeah. Right about in here. Yeah, I'm sliding up. Hold on here, team. So if I get up to right about here, we roll over. Here we go. August 20th, the next day here. So I'm not assuming, I'm going to show it. Down here, the last entry is 86,401. The top one's the header, so that's okay. But look, that file holds 2 days of data, exactly what I thought and said that it would with this setting right here. So anyway, I just thought I'd show a little video on the triggered snapshot and continuous snapshot and these time things. The most important thing is this new ability, 0.2 seconds, 86400. Basically, it's going to create 5 files in a day. As we found, there's not going to be 86400 entries. There's actually going to be 81,638 entries. Basically, each file is going to have about 4 hours and 48 minutes of data in there. Anyway, just thought I'd make a quick video on that. That's about it. The only way I could figure this out is by doing testing. And nobody at Red Lion could tell me the math on this. So now we figured it out. Now we understand. We're all good. If you got any questions, let me know, team. I'll be glad to help you out. Put it down in the comments. Subscribe to the channel if you like these videos. Thanks a lot. See you later.